Welcome to You, Me in the Counselling World, the podcast dedicated to student counsellors and the road to getting qualified and beyond. Today, let's have a think about journaling and why your course provider will ask you to do this. Hi everyone. Oh, it's so lovely to be back. I'm sorry I've been away for a while. It's, as usual, I feel like I say this every time, but it has been really hectic, with lots of teaching, but lots of really good things going on. So it's good to be back, and I hope you're all doing really well. So today I wanted to just make a quick episode about journaling, because so often course providers will ask students to journal. And you might be wondering, well, why do I need to do that? Why is that so important? And why should I bother? And I get it, you've got a lot to do. You've got a lot of work as a trainee. You've got so much to think about. And you might be thinking, well, the last thing I want to do is make extra work by sitting down and writing in a journal. So this is quite a tricky issue to kind of navigate, because I agree with you. There is a lot of work involved in training as a counsellor. But one thing that is worth remembering is that our self-awareness and our idea of self, our concepts, all help us to create the best possible environment for our clients. So by you knowing and understanding yourself, you can create the best therapeutic relationship that you can. And a big part of knowing about yourself is to write something down. And it might be that writing is not your thing. It doesn't float your boat. And so there might be scope after speaking to your course provider to think about perhaps recording something or drawing something to represent how you're feeling about yourself and about the course and about your development and about everything else that's going on in your life. Some providers will ask you to write. Now, when I did my diploma many moons ago, I had to write in a journal, and we did it by hand. And I had a beautiful book and I used to do everything in there. But actually, it was the threat of needing to occasionally hand these books in that kept us kind of on the straight and narrow. So every so often our tutors would just say at random, we just want to take in your journal this lunchtime, we're just going to have a flick through it. And that was enough to kind of motivate me to do the journaling. And I still have the journal to this day. And it's lovely. It's really lovely to look back on everything that I was thinking at that time, everything that I was learning, the development that I was getting. But this isn't an academic piece of work. This is just me being real with a piece of paper and talking about myself and how I was feeling. So it's really worth doing in many respects. Even for the richness and for the learning in the future, it's well worth it if you can get into it. So you might be wondering, how do I start this? Well, in all honesty, I would say, just start. Decide if you would like to sit down and write this by hand, or decide if you'd like to type this up. And again, this will come down a little bit to what your course provider or your college are asking you to do. They might require that you type this up so you can email it into them, or they might be happy for you to write it by hand. I find the process by writing it out by hand was really special, and that connection of my pen to the paper felt really good. But as what I would say now is that all these years later, I have an iPad, and my iPad has got an Apple Pencil. I don't know if you guys have had this before, but the Apple Pencil is absolute magic, because I write lots of journals now, but I write them using the Apple Pencil. So I've still got electronic versions of everything, but I'm able to keep them safe and secure on my iPad without carrying books and things around with me. And I get the pen to paper kind of feeling, but without having to carry something around that's quite cumbersome and big and heavy. So it really works well for me. And I really wish I'd had that option when I was training. But technology's moved on so much since then, and it's really great to be able to use the technology to our advantage. So what do we write about when we journal, you might be thinking to yourself? I think the answer to that is, how long is a piece of string? You can write whatever comes to you in that moment when you sit down. Maybe you've had a bad day. Maybe you've had a great day. Maybe something has sparked something for you when you've been at college at the weekend. Maybe you've had a lovely day with a friend and you want to write about your experience. I think bring everything, from your training through to life, through to how you feel about things, and share in depth how you are with everything. It's massively therapeutic to do that, and great experience to be able to talk to clients about in the future when perhaps you might be thinking that they might benefit from journaling. So I tended to sit down maybe once or twice a week, with my pen and a cup of tea and my book, and I would start to just write things as they came to me. And I just kept writing, and some of it made a lot of sense, some of it not so much. Some of it I felt like I needed to say, some bits I didn't need to say. It just felt right that I put it down. But what's really important is to recognise that it didn't really matter what I wrote. It's about me being really real, really congruent, and sharing the reality. So I would just say to just start. You can either do it as a dear, and dear whoever you are, dear John. You could put that down and write something like that, or you can just write this as a literally a diary entry with the date and time if you want to. You can even write where you were when you wrote it, which is massively helpful sometimes, especially when looking back a number of years later. But what I would say is, try not to make it into a chore in your mind. Try to recognise that the process of journaling is really, really helpful for our work. It's really, really, really helpful for our self-development and our self-awareness. If there's something has worried you or something has bothered you at college, write it down. Explore that for yourself. What's going on? What are you feeling when you're writing? And begin to understand that this is a really important part of your training. If your college has asked you to do your journal, please do, because I think if you don't, you're missing out on a great opportunity. And as I said earlier, maybe you can't write it. Maybe that doesn't float your boat at all. But there's nothing to stop you from speaking it and recording that. Maybe transcribing it if it needs to be put into writing. There's quite a few transcription apps out there that will do that, that will literally put it into writing once you've said what you need to say. It will put it into written text for you. So maybe that's an option for you to think about. The long and short of it is, though, one way or the other, it's good to get this stuff out, and out onto paper or out into spoken word if you need to. So I'm wondering what it is that puts you off starting your journal. Does it feel like a chore? And if it does, what could you do differently to make it feel more worthwhile? Maybe sit in a place where you don't normally sit. Perhaps take it out to the garden and sit and have a cup of tea whilst you're writing it. Maybe go somewhere completely different, and perhaps down to the beach or to the woods or to the park. Finding a place that helps you to feel creative, in a space where you're not going to get interrupted, can be really, really helpful. You might be wondering how long you need to spend in journaling. And I would say, just be free with that. If you sit down and you write everything you want to say in 5 minutes, then great. If you sit down and it takes you half an hour, that's great too. There's no right or wrong. This is about you and your process, and nobody can tell you otherwise. So don't fear the journal. Just recognise that actually this is something that can be so useful, and something with so much richness, and a great place to process those deep thoughts and feelings you might be experiencing. Especially off the back of your course, because the course will be designed to bring up lots, to press buttons for you to know and learn about yourself, because that's what counselling training is all about. So the journal is a really great way to bring together all of that learning, to bring together the thoughts and feelings that you might have experienced, and for you to recognise where that future work needs to take place. The journaling can be great when you're in personal therapy, and you can take your journal into your therapy room with you if you want to, and you can say to your therapist, I was writing my journal the other day, And this came out for me. What a great basis to start your therapeutic journey on. So remembering that the journal is not a chore, it's actually something that is really special, and probably one of the only courses that's ever going to ask you to sit down and write a journal. So please keep going at it. As much as it feels like it gets in the way, I don't think you need to do it for hours on end. I think that anything is better than nothing. Just make that start, and I think you will really, really reap the rewards. Just find a way. Maybe you will have to paint a picture. Maybe you will need to put some objects on the ground and take some photos to submit to your tutors. But if you are struggling with this journal, speak to your tutors, let them know that it's a struggle for you, and see what they can come up with some other options for you to work through. Because I can promise you it's absolutely worth it. So what do you think? Are you prepared to give it a go? Maybe it would be really lovely to set up a conversation on my Facebook page. I will leave the link to it in the show notes below. But maybe together we could have a conversation about journaling there, and you can share some of the great ideas you've come up with in order to help you to keep on track with your journal. I really would love to hear from you. So, I know this was a really short episode today, but something sparked me to want to record this, and I hope it was helpful to some of you that are setting out and you're just in the throes of the beginning of your training, or maybe for people that are further down the line and think, oh my gosh, I still haven't done that journaling. You're not alone. And remembering that actually it's a really common problem that people seem to experience. I hope this helps in some way. Okay, so thanks for tuning in. Please add a 5-star review and let me help to get the podcast out to more people. Come and connect with me on Facebook. It would be great to hear from you. Until next time, take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.